What's up, Awaken Kids? My name's Mr. Kyle from Bresci campus. Hope you guys are having a good time at conference. I hope you're being nice to your leaders and being nice to Mr. Christian. He's very sensitive, so make sure you give him lots of hugs. I have the honor and privilege to tell you guys a Bible story and a quick lesson today. First off, I want to ask you guys a question. Raise your hand if you've ever been asked to do something you don't want to do. I have it happen all the time, especially now that I got kids. But growing up, my chore was to take out the trash every week. We had to take it from the backside of my house to the curb, and I never wanted to do it at night because it was dark and there's probably big spiders and maybe some monsters in the trash or something, but I never would do it. And then I'd wait till the morning to do it, and I'd always forget. But lots of times I would just choose, you know what? I don't want to do this. I remember a particular time in the summer, I wanted to go skate with my friends, but I knew I needed to take the trash out, and I heard my dad remind me to do it, and I said, no, I'm not doing it. So I went off and skated with my friends, but I knew when I came home, I was gonna be in trouble, because I knew my dad would find out. It's just a bad choice. So today, it was Bible story. I'm gonna talk to you about Jonah and how he heard from God and actually made a choice not to do it. So God called Jonah, who is a prophet. Jonah is a prophet, was a prophet of God. And a prophet's job was to hear from God. Well, sometimes they would have good news and be able to tell people, hey, God thinks you're awesome. Other times they wouldn't have such a good job and have to tell them, hey, God thinks you're cool, but you need to fix a few things. You got to check yourself before you wreck yourself. So in this particular instance, God told Jonah to go to a city called Nineveh. You guys say Nineveh? Nineveh, cool. And Jonah didn't want to go. He heard God and said no. For a few reasons. Number one, the people in Nineveh were not friends of the Israelites. They were actually their enemies. So they were super mean. They were trying to take over the Hebrews, the Israel, all the time. So he's like, I'm not going to go over there because it's not going to end well for me. And one of the other reasons we find out in the book of Jonah is that he actually was afraid that God would actually forgive them. So instead of going to Nineveh, Jonah went to a city called Tarshish. You guys say Tarshish? And now say Tarshish. It's the worst, sorry. Tarshish. Anyway, so he went to Tarshish. So he actually bought a ticket on a boat and headed over to Tarshish, which is as far as he could go away from Nineveh. While he was on the boat, there was a huge storm. And everybody on top of the deck was freaking out. I don't know what you do in a storm, but I think there's a lot of like tying rope and you're fixing sails and throwing things overboard. And all of a sudden look around, they're like, where's this dude named Jonah who bought a ticket? So they go down and he's just chilling at the bottom in the deck, just probably in his bed, just relaxing. They're like, dude, can you come up here? We've all been praying to our gods. We've all been doing what we can. Can you come up and help and pray to your God? He's like, listen, guys, I don't need to pray to my God because I know exactly why this is happening. It's actually my fault. I was told to go to Nineveh and now I'm going to Tarshish and I did exactly what God told me not to do. So he's kind of punishing us all. And you know, the only way we could probably fix this if you throw me overboard. And they're all like, dude, we're not throwing you overboard. Let's do this. But we can't sink because this dude named Jeremy can't swim. So like, we gotta figure this out. So the Bible actually says they try to steer towards land and they couldn't do it. So finally they're like, dude, Jonah, I guess you're right. We gotta throw you over. So they all get together and throw Jonah overboard. As soon as he hits the water, the storm calms down. And everybody's like, oh, that was crazy. And actually says in the Bible that all the people on the ship actually praised God and actually said they made vows, which they promised to follow. Maybe they weren't going to be pirates anymore, or maybe they would actually take the trash out. So they would listen to God and follow him. So it was a cool part of this whole story. But while Jonah's sitting in the water, treading water, I don't know if he could swim, but just treading, a huge whale comes and swallows him. God sent the whale to grab him. Raise your hand if you've ever actually been swallowed by a whale and been in a whale's stomach. I haven't. I can't imagine it's super comfortable. I've seen like in movies and like pictures they show like, him just sitting down. I don't think it was like that. I think you were like in a belly with like a dirty fish on your face and like with like mocos everywhere. So while Jonah's in the belly, he prays to God. He was in there for 3 days, and he says, hey, God, my bad. I should have listened to you, but I didn't, and now, like, it stinks in here, literally. Please, I know you can hear me, because you saw me on the boat. You see me here. Can you help me out? So God actually has the whale vomit Jonah up onto the land. And then Jonah's like, all right, cool. God, what do you want me to do? God's like, hey, you still got to go to Nineveh. So Jonah heads over to Nineveh, and it said in the Bible that Nineveh was a huge city. It said it took 3 days to walk across it. So it's not just like a little cowboy town. It was a huge city. So Jonah finally gets to Nineveh and goes, all right, I'm just going to tell him what you want, God. So he goes to everybody and says, hey, God's not super stoked with what you're doing. You got to fix it, or he's going to destroy the city. Your choice. So he walks around and is telling everybody this. And the Bible actually says people listen to him. And it says that the king of Nineveh actually repented. They said he tore his clothes, put sackcloth in, and sat in ashes, which is a really weird thing. But that's what he did to show God he was so sorry. So after Jonah's done walking around saying all the stuff he needed to say to everybody, he goes on top of a hill that overlooks Nineveh. And he goes up there with the purpose of watching Nineveh get destroyed. Because he's like, there's no way that God's going to let these wicked, wicked, terrible people live and not destroy the city. While he's up there, he's obviously got a super good attitude because he's looking for the city to be destroyed. He just got out of a whale's stomach, being disobedient to God. So he's got a bad attitude. Even then, God sees him and puts a tree over him to give him shade from the sun. So as he's sitting there in the shade that God provided, watching, nothing happens. He's waiting, nothing happens. In my mind, I kind of picture the Grinch after he steals all the presents and he's waiting at the top.
He paused, and the Grinch put a hand to his ear. And he did.
Waiting for all the Who's to come out and just start whining and crying that there's no presents. And then they start doing the, whatever that song is, they start holding hands. That's kind of what happens here. Jonah's looking down, waiting for this destruction, and all he sees is people repenting, and he realizes, oh my gosh, God is completely forgiving these people, and he's letting them off the hook. And he's like, God, what are you doing? And God actually speaks to him and reminds him, like, no, I can do whatever I want, and you need to fix your attitude. The cool thing about this story is that no matter how many bad things the Ninevites, I don't know what the people from Nineveh were called, no matter how many bad things they did, they were able to hear God's word and they repented and turned to God and everything was cool. Which is a good reminder to us that no matter what you've done, no matter how many bad things you've done, or how many times you forgot to take out the trash, even on purpose, if you turn to God and listen to what he's saying, you'll be forgiven and your city won't be destroyed. See, the thing with Jonah, though, he wasn't stoked about this. He wasn't excited to see what God was doing in Nineveh's life, and the people from Nineveh's life. So God actually had to remind him, like, I am God, I am in charge. And so it's a good reminder. First of all, we listen when people, adults and your parents and God tells you to do something, or you're gonna end up in a storm, in a whale's belly. And then the second one is we need to be excited about what God's doing in other people's life. We should be praying for them and celebrating when bad people come to know God and are forgiven for all their sins. So thank you guys for listening to us. I hope you guys have a good rest of your conference, and give a high five to all your leaders. Thanks, guys. Tarshish.